Hi, this is Brent-Anthony Johnson and welcome back to Basic Bass. Today we're going to talk about a lot of different things. We're going to start by talking about different ways to do scales. We've been talking about the major and minor scales and things of that nature, and I just really wanted to go back for just a second and talk about the various different ways to do that. I showed you a couple different ways to play the major scale at one point. Today we're going to use the note A, why not? And so you know the most common way that we learn how to play scales in the beginning is 2-4, 1-2-4, 1-3-4. Now that's the digits on my fretting hand. So if I take my middle finger of my fretting hand and play A, 5th fret, E string, B, 7th fret, E string, C sharp, 4th fret, A string, index finger, D, 5th fret, middle finger of the A string, E, which is the pinky on the 7th fret of the A string. We've got F sharp with the index finger, 4th fret of the D string. We've got G sharp, which is the 6th fret of the D string, and then octave. Okay? That does translate to the C as well, same fret fingering. So when I talk about fingerings, I'm talking about which finger on which fret producing which note. So that is the scale that I call major scale number 1. Which is common. We all learned that one in the very beginning. We learned that one, and so I extended that to take the third note of the scale in A, which would be C sharp, which would be on the 4th fret of the A string, and the note F sharp, which would be on the 4th fret of the D string, and I've placed them here instead, which is the 9th fret of the E string and the 9th fret of the A string, which produces the notes F sharp and C sharp. So instead of here, I'm playing them here, which again allows me to play an extra note on a string and not run out of strings so quickly. Extending that fingering helps that, and you'll notice that it's 1 finger per fret in this particular shape, and I'm extending it in this shape by omitting the 6th fret of the E string and not playing it all because I'm not part of the scale, but playing using my middle finger to play the 2nd of that scale, which is B in the key of A, and then using my pinky where it falls naturally on the next note. So it's just extended by a fret essentially. And by doing this, I can also continue up the scale. Though you can also do that here. Actually get this really nice E to top off the scale in this fingering, which is why I use extended fingerings in the first place. So that would be considered an extended fingering, and it's really nice to just work that very slowly to get that stretch and extend it note-wise beyond the octave. And you can take that exercise, and I found it easier to take that fingering and play patterns like that because it's symmetrical. It all lines up with sort of 3 notes per string, with this one change to the fingering here with the major 7th of the scale, which is G sharp. So I use that fingering quite a lot. I use extended fingering quite often. Another way, now I'm going to go to the note C, because that also applies to C, as I had played that before. If you take this note, C, which is on the 3rd fret of your A string, and actually play it on the 8th fret of your E string, it's the same note. And so as I was just experimenting with scales, as I was growing up, I would try to find weird ways to do things. And so when you take this C scale, C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B in the octave, in the extended fingering that we discussed before, if you play the C from the 8th fret of your E string, the D in its natural place on the 5th fret of the A string, the E in its natural place, the 7th fret of the A string. But if you take your pinky and play F on the 8th fret of your A string, and then you can play G, 5th fret of the D string, play A on the 7th fret of your D string, and then your major 7th and your octave would fall in the same place as in both previous fingerings. So that scale looks like this. And it's just a fun way to play the scale to keep things interesting as you practice. And also, it helps you to learn the notes in the fingerboard and displace things every once in a while so you can continue to learn the fingerboard. Many students, when they begin with me, don't understand or know the notes above maybe the 7th fret, sometimes the 5th fret. And using this can kind of get you started, because once again, practicing isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. It's a marathon. It's just take your time and understand the information under your fingers. Pretty basic stuff. Now, as I've said before, the natural minor scale that we played before, starting from C, it flattens by 1 fret E, as in C major, to E flat. And also A on the 7th fret of your D string to A flat. Now, considering that the key that you're actually playing in when you play a C natural minor scale is actually E flat major, and we'll get into that a little more, I'm using the flattened note name. Those inharmonic names, depending upon the scale that we're playing and depending upon the key that we're in, this note can either be E flat or D sharp, depending upon, once again, the key we're playing in. Same thing with A in the natural minor. It goes from A to A flat, and that note can be A flat or G sharp. So some of your notes have inharmonic names. So, for instance, that can be either E flat or D sharp, and this can either be A flat or G sharp. And we'll discuss more of that later. The last note of the scale is also a minor 7, and that note can either be A sharp, or in this case, since we're talking about the key of E flat, can be B flat. So once again, this note can be either A sharp or B flat. So watch out for those notes that have inharmonic names. Another way to play a natural minor scale is to use the C here at the 8th fret of your E string. D would be the 5th fret of your A string. E flat would be the 6th fret of your A string. F would be the 8th fret of your A string. G would be the 5th fret of your D string. Then we've got A flat on the 6th fret of your D string, B flat on the 8th fret of your D string, and then an octave. So the scale looks like this. And I have used that minor scale shape a lot as I'm playing through chord changes and things of that nature. That one comes in very, very handy, as opposed to, which can also be played here. I find this fingering to be more open and allows you access typically to the lower notes that would be in a given key. In this particular case would be E flat in the key of, if you're playing the C minor natural minor scale, you're actually in the key of E flat by and large. Now, certainly that can mean other keys as well, but one way to identify your natural minor scale is the 3rd degree of that scale is actually the major key that you're playing in. So when people talk about minor keys and major keys and things of that nature, I kind of relate things to the major key that we're playing in, though it may have nothing to do with E flat. Essentially, you still have that understanding that the 3rd note that you play, the 3rd degree of that natural minor scale, is actually the major key that you're in. So any major scale, any natural minor scale, if you're playing in sort of true diatonic form, the third note you play of that scale would be the major key that you're in. And that's just another way to fret that scale. It has nothing to do with any of the other information that you're receiving per se. It's just a good thing to kind of have in your mind as you pass through things, as you grow, and as we just stretch ourselves out as musicians. But I do use this particular minor scale quite a lot. I do use that a lot. It just comes in handy if I'm traveling, up and down the fingerboard to get to another chord tone, as it were. So those are the two ways additional ways that I would play a major scale and a natural minor scale. Another way to look at scales is breaking down. We talked about modes just very briefly. A way to break that down is to take each one of the modal scales and play them individually. And so when you're playing through those modal scales, another thing I like to do very often is to use a static pitch. So in this case, I will use the static pitch of the note C to play through that information. So as I said before, please never refer to the C major scale as Ionian. It's just naturally Ionian. Everybody knows that, and it doesn't promote any sort of knowledge by saying that. As a matter of fact, it's a little shady when people start to say that. It means that you're learning your modes. You don't want to expose that necessarily. You want to learn your modes privately at home, right? So everyone knows that this is, at this point, C major. Now, if you were to take the Dorian scale, you're no longer in C major, though you're starting from the note C. You're actually in B flat major, because C would be the second degree of a B flat major scale. So using it as a Dorian, you would play now notice that it has a minor third of the scale itself. It is a natural fourth of the key of B flat major in this context. But also notice this tonality, because you're actually playing in B flat major and not in C per se. You're using C, but you're not playing in C. You're actually playing in C Dorian, if you want to look at it in technical terms. But that's how that would sound. That's how C Dorian sounds. That sets it apart from C major or C minor. It is a modal scale. That is the Dorian scale. Now the next scale would be C Phrygian, okay? That is the Phrygian scale. It has a minor third, a natural fourth, fifth, a major sixth, but a minor seventh. And if you use the C Phrygian scale, you're actually playing in A flat major, because Phrygian is the third degree scale, which means the third note, which would be a major third within the key of A flat major. Because if you were playing A flat major scale, and therefore your C would be Phrygian in the key of A flat major. But the scale itself, just refer to it as a Phrygian scale. And it incorporates all of the notes of the A flat major scale. Now we have the fourth degree, and if we were to use a static pitch of C, it would be called the C Lydian scale. The cool thing about the C Lydian scale is it has a raised fourth. So it sounds very much like a C major scale. However, it has this particular note because you're actually playing in the key of G major, because C Lydian would be the fourth degree of a G major scale. So if you were to play a G major scale, and so if you would play the modal scale of Lydian, it incorporates everything that's within the context of a G major scale. So you have that raised information that's actually a part of G major, has nothing to do with the key of C at all. And so if you were to play a C Lydian scale, you would also incorporate that F sharp. And I really, really love Lydian. I love Lydian. I use a lot of Lydian melody. You'll hear a lot of Lydian melody in popular music and things of that nature. It's a very, very cool scale to learn and to employ the same sorts of exercises with all of these scales as you have with the major and the minor scale. So you can play and just do exercises. That you can with the major and minor scale. Any sort of scale, you can do any sorts of exercises that you can create. You can do intervallic things, that sort of thing if you want to, and just sort of work through that. Any sort of intervallic information that you can play with any other type of scale. Just look at the modal scales as scales unto themselves, because you'll use them in sort of melodic reference and anything of that nature just as much as you use the major and minor scale. It's just another 7 scales to learn based upon the major scale itself. So we've just played C Lydian. So the next scale that we would play would be a Mixolydian scale, the 5th degree of a given key. This given key would be F major. So if you were to play the Mixolydian scale, it would use all of the necessary information, all the noted information, all of the notes of an F major scale. And you can use it in complete extended fingering. I tend to play Mixolydian as follows, which is very much like a C major scale. However, it has a flattened 7th degree. So instead of playing B as in the key of C major, you would play B flat, because there is a B flat in the key of F. If I were to play an F major scale, and since this is a modal scale, C would be the 5th degree, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But notice that it incorporates a B flat as opposed to a B major or B natural. That would be in the key of C major. So when you're playing the C Mixolydian scale, it fingers very, very similarly to a C major scale with a minor 7th. Okay. The next modal scale would be Aeolian. It would be C Aeolian. And we just discussed C Aeolian just a moment ago, that it is in the key of E flat major. And for that, you can incorporate any fingering of the minor scale that you'd like to. Let's just use this fingering. And as I mentioned before, the 3rd note of a natural minor scale is the key you're actually playing in. So you're actually playing in E flat major, which so C Aeolian has all of the notes that exist in an E flat major scale. So you've got C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, octave. And if you were playing an E flat major scale, it would be E flat, F, D, A flat, B flat. See what I'm saying? So all of the same notes are inherent in those particular 2 scales. And in other scales too, there is minor information in every key, major and minor information. By now, hopefully you're recognizing that there's a lot of minor information inherent in any given key. And I look at particularly Dorian, Phrygian, Aeolian as very minor sounding scales. The C, if I were to play a static note C Phrygian scale, which is again part of A flat major, you would hear a minor 3rd, minor 7th. Because actually in the key of E flat, or A flat, in the key of A flat, it has all of the same inherent notes. And that's why I'm using a static pitch versus a key of. I'm just using C as a note to start those scales, which is a really good thing to do. I typically play these all over the fingerboard just to get the sound of it. And as you practice those sounds, one of the things I really like to do, and I haven't mentioned yet, is playing with drones. You can pull up YouTube, there's drones. There's drones available in a lot of different sources of the key that you're playing in, and then play this minor sounding or different sounding, harmonically different sounding information, though you'll find that it fits very, very well. So in the case of, for instance, C Phrygian, if you had an A flat drone, you could hear the difference in how this scale works and work through it against that note all the time. So you get a lot of interesting harmonic understanding and how to find those magic notes that are somehow inherent in a key that people don't tend to find or look for. I have found my way into really nice substituted notes for bass notes through the modal scales, by practicing the modal scales, because as you practice this information, you'll certainly begin to hear it. So in C Dorian, I would have a B flat drone going. So I would have this while I'm playing see what I'm saying? And so for Phrygian, I would have an A flat note going while I play Phrygian, and then G as I play C Lydian. And then of course F as I played C Mixolydian. E flat, I'd have a drone pitch of E flat while I played, you know, C Aeolian or natural minor. And finally, the last modal scale is Locrian. It's the 7th degree. It starts with the major 7. So in the case of all of these other static pitch scales that we're learning, you would be starting from the major 7. The thing about major 7 is that it's right below the tonic. A major 7 is directly 1 fret below the tonic. So in the case of C Locrian, it would be as if I started a D flat major scale and started from the 7th degree, which would sound like this. But it would include all of the inherent information of a D flat major scale. So the scale looks like this. So C Locrian scale is actually the 7th degree of D flat major. So that's how you would practice the modal scales for the diatonic major scale. It breaks down into 7 different scale patterns that you can learn, and you can use those to train your ear to begin to hear wonderful harmonic information against a drone. I would definitely suggest that you practice against a drone. So for C Dorian, it would be B flat. For C Phrygian, it would be A flat. For C Lydian, it would be G. For C Mixolydian, static pitch scales, of course, it would be F. For C Aeolian, it would be E flat. And for C Locrian, it would be D flat. And if you would pull up those drone notes that you can access from anywhere, YouTube having a ton of those things, you can hear the harmonic difference that you're playing within the context of the major key that you're actually playing by using these modal scales. This is one place where this really works very, very well. And it's nice to kind of hear that. And it's nice for you to have situations where, as you're learning as a student, to have your ear just kind of tweaked a little bit. So I wouldn't have thought of that. because as bass players, we think from the bottom up all the time. It's nice to learn things that we think from the top down, perhaps, and it's nice to set really nice harmonic information within a chordal setting. Just to hear wonderful places where we can place the bass note. In pop music, a lot of Sting's bass lines are very modal. It's really, really interesting how he uses that. There's a wonderful band called Tarmac Adam that the bassist uses modal information all the time. And it's wonderful how it kind of sets the harmony of the tune just kind of off a little bit. It just sounds really, really cool as people employ that. People have done that in all kinds of different musics. But it's, when you hear it, it's like, oh, that's interesting. And a lot of time with your smart writers, it's not a mistake. It's absolutely meant, and it's absolutely meant to tweak the music just a little bit, just for fun. I love using modal scales within the context of singer-songwriter, pop music and things that I record as a session player, if I'm allowed to do that and if it's okay with the songwriter themselves. Sometimes I'll add this information just for fun, or I might do it once in the context of a song, just for the sake of adding something, adding a little color. But by and large, you know, my job as a session player, I'm called to play a lot of roots. So having this knowledge is really fun because sometimes you can employ it, sometimes you can use it. But as a practicing musician, I play these all over my fingerboard. I use any static note and just, you know, teach myself or rehearse how well I know these scales, because they do come in handy. They do come in handy. Thanks for watching. See you next time.